Okay, so imagine this. You have an AI, and it can dig through research, but it really spends like 5 to 30 minutes analyzing it, just like a human expert would.
Yeah.
That's what OpenAI's deep research tool does, and that's what we're diving into today.
It's pretty revolutionary.
Yeah.
Most AI models are built for speed.
Yeah.
Like you ask a question, you get an answer instantly. But deep research takes time to understand things.
hmm
Like connecting the dots, synthesizing information in a way that just wasn't possible before.
So it's like your own personal research team, but without the drama.
Exactly.
And speaking of personal stories,
Yeah.
one of the OpenAI team members, Philippe, actually used deep research when his wife was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Yeah, his wife was considering radiation therapy,
Yeah.
and deep research helped him get into the specifics of her case. It looked at her medical records and all the latest research for her type of cancer. And what was really remarkable is it found studies that even Philippe, who was a medical professional himself, hadn't come across.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's a powerful example.
it is.
So let's break down what deep research is. You mentioned that it takes time to analyze information,
Right.
and that's different from other AI models. How does that work?
Well, deep research is designed to mimic how a human expert would do research. So instead of a quick answer, it searches across a massive amount of information, research papers, articles, everything. Then it takes it a step further. It actually synthesizes the information, finds those key insights, and even highlights potential problems or contradictions in the research.
So it's not just about speed, it's about depth.
Yes,
Really understanding the complexity of the question.
absolutely. And the results kind of speak for themselves. In a benchmark test, deep research was incredibly accurate, like
Yeah.
way more accurate than previous models.
How much more accurate are we talking?
Like a huge difference.
Mm.
Previous models scored around 9%, but deep research achieved over 226%.
Wow, okay, so that's a big difference.
Yeah.
But how does this work in real life? How is it actually helping people?
Well, OpenAI shares some really good examples. For instance, a chemist who was researching mixed gas sorption in glassy polymers. It's a pretty complex topic.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Lots of research involved, and deep research was able to analyze all of the studies and give him detailed explanations, equations, and potential challenges he might face. It actually saved him 4 hours of work.
4 hours is a lot of time for a researcher.
It is. And it's not just about saving time. It's about getting high-quality insights.
Yeah.
They also talked about a linguist who was exploring Creole languages.
Okay.
Deep research saved her 5 hours by giving her a structured analysis of grammatical structures. It even highlighted connections between different Creole languages that she hadn't even considered.
So it's like having a research assistant that can do the work, but also make insightful connections that a human might miss.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And this leads to another important point. A lot of the value in the world comes from tasks that need deep research and analysis. Things that doctors, lawyers, analysts, and researchers do. OpenAI says that deep research can already do a small percentage of these tasks, giving insights similar to what you'd expect from a human expert.
That's a pretty big claim.
It is.
A small percentage might not seem like a lot, but when you consider how many jobs involve research and analysis, that's a huge potential impact.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is a huge impact, and it could even change how we think about search engines like Google.
Oh, really? Tell me more about that. How could this change the way we search for information?
Well, imagine you're researching a topic for a project. Right now, you'd probably go to Google, type in some keywords, and get a ton of results.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to go through all those links and try to figure out what you need. It takes a lot of time, and it can be overwhelming.
I know that feeling. You just feel like you're drowning in information.
Exactly. But with deep research, you could just ask your question, wait a few minutes, and then get a clear, structured report with all the key information. It's like having a whole research team right there.
So it's not just about finding information. It's about understanding it and making sense of it.
That's it. And it could really change things. Traditional search engines might become obsolete if deep research lives up to its promise.
That's a big if. But it's definitely interesting. It makes you wonder what this could mean for all the companies and institutions that rely on those old search methods.
It is a huge question, and the implications are big.
Mm.
Think about research institutions, libraries, even the way we teach and learn. It could change how we access information in a fundamental way.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential of deep research, but are there any downsides or risks to consider? Any technology this powerful could be misused, right?
You're right. OpenAI is aware of that, and they say they're committed to responsible AI development.
So what are some of the specific concerns then?
I think one of the biggest challenges with any AI is making sure that it's used ethically. For deep research, this means making sure that the information it learns from is diverse and unbiased.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
If the information is biased, the results will be biased too.
exactly. That's why OpenAI has to be really careful about how they develop and use deep research. They need safeguards to prevent misuse and ensure that the technology is used for good.
It sounds like a delicate balance, harnessing the power but also managing the risks.
It definitely is. But I think it's a challenge we need to face. We can't avoid these technologies just because we're afraid. We need to be involved in shaping how they are developed and used.
You're right. It's about having those conversations about the potential and the risks of AI so we can navigate it responsibly.
Exactly. And that brings me to another point. Transparency. OpenAI needs to be open about how deep research works, how it's trained, and what they're doing to prevent misuse.
So it's not just about the technology, it's also about trust and accountability.
Yes. And that's something all AI developers need to think about as we move forward in this field.
Speaking of moving forward, when can we expect to actually use deep research? Is it available yet?
Not quite yet. It's still in phases. It's available to some OpenAI users right now, but they plan to make it available to more people soon.
So it's not ready for everyone yet, but it's on the horizon.
It is. It's going to be very interesting to see how deep research changes and what impact it has.
I agree. Okay, so we've talked about a lot. The power of deep research, how it could change search, the ethical stuff, and when it will be available. I'm curious what stands out the most to you. What's the most fascinating part of all this?
I think what's really fascinating is that we are seeing a new era of research and discovery. Deep research is not just a tool, it's a whole new way of thinking. It's a look into a future where AI can help us be smarter in ways we never thought possible.
And that's exciting, right?
It is, and it's a future that we can all be a part of. The choices we make today about AI will affect everyone tomorrow.
So it's not about letting technology control the future. It's about being involved in creating it.
Exactly. And that's why these conversations are so important. We need to be informed, engaged, and involved in shaping the future of AI, making sure it benefits all of us.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Well, it's been great exploring this with you. Thanks for sharing your knowledge.
It's been a pleasure. It's always great to talk about these new technologies.
And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the future of research. Remember, the future is what we make it. So stay curious, stay informed, and let's keep exploring together.
Absolutely.
That's a pretty bold claim.
It is.
A single-digit percentage might not sound like much, but when you think about all the jobs that use research and analysis, that's a big impact.
It really is. And it gets even more interesting when you think about how this could change search engines, like Google.
Oh, tell me more about that. How could deep research change how we search?
Well, imagine this. You need to research something complicated for a project.
Okay.
So you go to Google, type in some keywords, and you get millions of results.
Right. Tons of links.
Exactly. And then you have to go through all of them and try to find what you need. It takes forever, and it could be overwhelming.
Yeah, I know that feeling. It's like information overload.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But with deep research, you could skip all that. You ask your question, wait a little bit, and you get a nice report that summarizes everything. It's like having a team of researchers working for you.
So it's not just about finding the information, it's about understanding it.
Yeah, and making sense of it. It's like the difference between having a map and having a GPS.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
And it could really change how we think about search engines. Traditional search engines might not even be needed anymore if deep research works as well as they say.
That's a big if. But it's definitely an interesting thought. What could this mean for all those companies that rely on traditional search?
It's a big question. The implications are huge.
Mm.
Think about research institutions, libraries, even how we teach and learn. It could totally change how we access information.
Okay, so we've talked about all the potential of deep research, but are there any downsides? Any risks we should think about? I mean, any technology this powerful could be misused.
You're absolutely right. OpenAI knows this, and they talk about responsible AI development.
So what are some of the things they are concerned about?
One of the biggest challenges with AI is making sure it's used ethically. With deep research, this means being careful about the data it learns from. It needs to be diverse and representative, and the model itself can't be biased.
Right, because if the data is biased, then the results will be biased too.
Exactly. And that's why OpenAI has to be very careful about how they develop and use this. They need to have ways to prevent misuse and make sure it's used for good.
It sounds like a difficult balance, harnessing the power of AI while also managing the risks.
It is. But it's a challenge we have to face. We can't just ignore these technologies because we're scared. We need to be proactive in shaping them and making sure they are used for good.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's about having open conversations about the potential and the risks of AI. so we can figure out how to use it responsibly.
Exactly. And that leads to another important point. Transparency. OpenAI needs to be open about how deep research works, how it's trained, and what they're doing to prevent problems.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's also about trust and accountability.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's important for all AI developers as we move forward.
So speaking of moving forward, when can we expect to use deep research? Is it available to the public yet?
Not yet. It's still being rolled out in phases. Right now, it's available to some of OpenAI's users, but they plan to make it more widely available soon.
So it's not quite ready for prime time, but it's coming.
Yeah, it's coming. And it's going to be fascinating to see how it develops and what kind of impact it has on the world.
I agree. So we've covered a lot here. The power of deep research, its potential to change search, the ethical considerations, and its availability. I'm curious, what do you find most fascinating about all of this?
You know what I find most fascinating? I think it's that we are seeing the beginning of a whole new era of research and knowledge. Deep research isn't just a tool, it's a whole different way of thinking. It's a glimpse into a future where AI can help us understand things in ways we never could before.
And that's a pretty exciting future, wouldn't you say?
It really is. And it's a future we can all be a part of. The decisions we make about AI today will have a huge impact on what happens tomorrow.
So it's not about letting the technology decide the future. It's about being involved in shaping it.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to talk about these things. We need to be informed and engaged and help shape the future of AI so that it benefits everyone.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, it really does feel like we're on the edge of something big here. It's exciting and maybe a little bit scary all at the same time.
I think it is a pretty unique time. We're really at the start of a new era, and it's our responsibility to make sure we do it right.
That's a good point. You mentioned personalized medicine earlier, and I wanted to hear a little more about that. How could deep research change healthcare?
Well, imagine this. Your doctor has all of your medical information, your history, your genetics, your blood work. And they don't just have it. They have an AI that can analyze it, along with tons of research papers and clinical trials. That's what deep research could do.
Wow, so instead of relying only on what the doctor knows, they would have this AI tool to help them make decisions.
Exactly. It's like having a whole team of specialists for every case.
Oh,
Deep research could look at your situation, find potential risks, suggest treatments, and even predict how you would react to different medications based on your genes. It would take personalized medicine to a new level.
that's amazing. It would take out a lot of the guesswork.
It could. And it's not just about treating what you already have. Deep research could also help us discover and develop new drugs. Imagine analyzing huge amounts of data to find new drug candidates, or even design personalized gene therapies. The possibilities are really incredible.
It's amazing to think about how this could change healthcare and so many other fields. So what do you think about this? What stands out to you? How do you think this might impact your life or your work? It's worth thinking about because this technology has the potential to change things in a big way.
It definitely does. And remember, we're just at the beginning. Deep research is still new. If it can do all this now, just imagine what it will be able to do in a few years.
It's hard to even imagine the progress that could be made. It's both exciting and a little scary at the same time.
It is. But if we develop AI carefully and thoughtfully, I believe it can help us solve some of the world's biggest problems and make a better future for everyone.
That's a great point. It's been fascinating talking about deep research with you. Thank you so much for your insights.
It's been my pleasure. These kinds of discussions about new technologies are always so interesting.
And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the future of research. The future is what we make it. So stay curious, stay informed, and let's keep exploring together.
Absolutely.